Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to partake in our first town hall as we move through the events of the city, things that happen. And we know that not everyone comes to our city hall for board meetings. We think it's just a good idea. We see a lot of faces we don't see at our board meeting. That's good. So what we want to do is a presentation by some of our department heads. And as we go through that, if you have questions, you may ask questions to the department head. Uh, and at the end, after we wrap up the session with department heads, then we'll open up some other topics. And if you have a topic you'd like to discuss and come up here, we'll grant it to you. We follow the same rules as we follow in City Hall. No personal attacks, and I don't think this group is going to do that. And we're going to start right on with our human resources. Or I see if Mr. Taylor wants to say anything, or do you want to? Thank you. Melissa.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Melissa. I'm the Human Resources Director for the City of Oxford. And I just wanted to go over what benefits it is to work with the City of Oxford. We have pension. Once you're vested for 5 years, we match your 401k for up to 5%. We have medical, dental, vision, and life insurance, which is provided by the city. You get 12 holidays per year, plus effective July 1st, we're adding a floating holiday. Paid vacation and 12 sick days per year. We offer lateral transfer benefits, and that's if you come from another municipality. You would accrue your vacation with years of service and transfer your full sick leave balance. We offer ancillary benefits, which is long term, short term, critical illness, cancer, and accident. We also offer merit pay based on your performance evaluations, developmental pay, and cost of living each year. Our current openings that we have are line maintenance technician, meter reader, police officers, wastewater treatment plant operator. We've just added a new position, which is project manager, lifeguards, and part-time facility supervisor for recreation at Lake Devon. And if anybody has any questions, be glad to answer. They're on our webpage with the exception of project manager because we're still in the process of putting that one together. Hmm.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Our next presentation is what's the next one? Planning and Code Enforcement, Mr. Cheryl Hart.
Is it a slide? Yes, thank you. I just wanted to quickly go over our growth that we're experiencing. So first, we just annexed 134 acres of industrial property, referred to as the Montague Center. We we annexed 129 acres for 302 new homes, and you see that on Highway 96 South, the Meadows. We annexed 152 acres consisting of 327 new homes, 64 townhomes, 263 single-family dwellings. We annexed 290 acres off of Knox Grove Road, consisting of 581 new dwelling units. 144 would be townhomes, and 437 will be single family. You see across near Walmart, about 57 acres, Hatcher's Creek. We have 425 units, 288 will be apartments, 110 will be townhomes, 27 will be single-family homes. We have 52 acres um, of 228 townhomes. And then we have 144 acres of 336 single family, and that's off of the outer loop near Salem Road. And so is the Cruise Pond development. Then you may have seen the units that are going up. It's 950 acres, and it's referred to as the Havens. It's age restricted. It's 60 units, and they're taking applications now. So that brings us a total of 967 acres, 225 new homes. And if we were to compute that in terms of population growth, that'll be 5,000 and maybe 295, something like that. And of course, with the, that does not factor in the remaining acreage for Oxford Park. And we have the Landis Road, which will be under review now, and probably be more information shared with that. Thorndale Villas and Wilkerson Farm. Does anybody have any questions regarding any of those developments that I just mentioned? And, okay, yes, ma'am. So usually it takes up to 4 to 5 years before you start seeing something, because now they're in the engineering phase. So the essential things that we should be doing and we have done, we adopted a comprehensive plan, which is our guide for future growth. So whenever we get a rezoning request, we refer to that comprehensive plan, and that guides us in how we're to grow. It is, and I think it should be online. So that's a good question. That was required for us to do, to adopt that, and we adopted it, I think, in 2022, April of 2022. I think it was April 13th to be exact. And so that was required for us to do, and we were able to do that. And we also adopted our development plan in our ordinance in 2021. So that put us in a position where we plan for smart growth. Yes, sir.
Behind us. You don't never give a preacher a microphone. That's dangerous. But in any event, when I consider Ivy Day Road, and you have the school, West Oxford there, has any consideration been done to do some type of a survey or an analysis of the traffic impact on that road, because it's only a two-lane road, and I can only envision traffic at a standstill, proverbial standstill.
So, let me see, do I have Thorndale Villas? So Thorndale Villas, which I have listed, that's under review, that traffic impact analysis will take in that area as well. And we're working very closely with NCDOT. Yes, sir. A whole lot of money. The Meadows, I'll use that for an example. Pre-COVID, I think you could have gotten a decent starter home for 200,000, and now the starter home is 300,000. The Meadows, that's what their listing price is. Yes, sir.
With all the, thank you. With all the homes and I see the development that's coming, what type of businesses are you lining up to take care of all of these people?
So most of the businesses, and my disclaimer is I'm not an economic development director or developer, but most businesses come when the population increase. So as we grow, people will get the Applebee's and the Chili's and some of those type of development as well as some of the larger type of developments as well. So I've always heard that you had to be at least 10,000 for them to look at you. And we've been standing at 8,500 for quite some time. And as I stated, with those developments that I have listed, just for that alone, we're looking at a population increase of 5,000 and some change.
What does the city see the impact that this growth will have on the school system?
So every year, I've been involved where they get all of the planners together and we share this information with them so they can plan appropriately. So I think last year we did it in November. So every year we're invited to share our information. So that's myself, Butner, STEM, Creekmore. So all the planners share the growth and development information to the school systems so they can plan appropriately.
I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but you're talking about the Meadows and Raleigh Road. Are they gonna put a grocery store back this way?
I hope so. It would benefit me. So again, I think a lot of that will be driven by population increase. So when I say smart growth, it is, we've hired a consultant to put together this comprehensive plan to guide us in our growth. And that serves as a guide. So smart growth to me is sticking with that plan. And, if you're going to deviate from it, not too much. So if the plan says one thing, we paid for it. So they put in a lot of work to put that together. So when we did our comprehensive plan, we had some community meetings and we asked, what was important. And so we had residents come and share their ideas of what was needed. And so that plan was put together with community involvement. I'm sorry. Okay. And thank you. So Commissioner Khan was talking about part of the plans that we have is conservation developments where you trade off smaller lots and you put in more buffering and kind of creatively be more environmental friendly.
One element.
Mhm.
So, and of course, you got to think about traffic because now you got a whole lot other, cars on the road. But I wonder what's being done as far as an increase in hiring for social services. The more people, the more social services are going to be needed. Is there any particular plan for that, or as you inform all of the other institutions that are going to be affected by this growth, they know to make their own plan as the growth happens?
So some of the programs that the city has been involved with in helping in the areas of social services. For an example, during the pandemic, we received ARPA funds, but aside from that, we received $900,000 in grant monies to help with utilities, mortgages, rental assistance. That was closed out in August of 2023. And we were able to, I think we spent down to maybe half of that, 450,000, give and take. And so with the remaining funds, we're going to install a sidewalk. And also we have now $2 million worth of housing repair that's no cost to the residents that's receiving it. So, we have two grants, community development grants, and each one is $950,000. So we already have the applicants selected, but we also have an urgent repair grant, which is $132,000, and each household is eligible up to $12,000. And all of this is no cost to our residents. So if you know anybody elderly that may need a new roof or heating unit, please send them my way. I'm sorry. Yes, we got to get this done.
Sorry. I ask this question because I've heard it often. I just want to be clear about the answer. For example, our population growth seems to be about the same number each time I hear it. So in that sense, are some of these developments dealing outside and they're not going to be city taxpayers, they're going to be county taxpayers? Or will this actually end up being a growth in actual city paying taxpayers?
So part of our policy is if you need water and sewer, you have to petition for annexation. And each annexation is reviewed by our Board of Commissioners. And so we have to have the ability to serve the petitioner the same type of services that we give you. So extending water and sewer and all that kind of stuff. So once the property is annexed, they receive the same services that you have received. Absolutely. So the meadows, you see all the houses going up, that's already annexed. So most of those that I named, most of those are annexed or in the process of being. We are moving outward.
You mentioned about the Smart Growth Program. How many years are we talking about this planning? Is it a 10-year program, 15-year program? Can you associate years with regards to this program?
So usually you adopt it or revise it every 10 years. And we may want to do it a little bit, maybe every 7, but every 10 is definitely a must.
Let me say that you are most efficient in how you are presenting it, and I thank you for that. However, in terms of information to the residents, I work among almost all residents in the city, and I'm asking you if we could find a way to get this information to all the residents, just like how you just asked if you know somebody who we can send them on to you, because I'm hearing residents asking me questions, and I say, "Oh, you need to go up to City Hall." You see what I'm saying? So if we could find a way in terms of letting as many residents as possible know. I know you put it in the paper, but however you do it, I even know residents who can't read. So therefore, if you could let the residents know, however you can,
Okay.
it just seemed to me that there's a lack of disbursing of information. Thank you.
Well, and thank you for that. We are tapped in with social services, particularly the senior center, because those are the ones that need it the most and impacted. So thank you for that. And we'll try to come up with better ways of notifying people about services. They are not, and not to come up with any kind of excuses, but for the longest time, it's been myself and code enforcement. And so a couple of weeks ago, we just got another planner who could do a lot of research. And that's one of the things we're researching because our Board of Commissioners have asked us to do that, to come up with ways of affordable housing. Absolutely. So our manager is hard at work with our police chief and fire chief to see how we could better serve as this growth is taking place all over the place in Oxford. So I'm sure they're coming up with strategically trying to where we're gonna have substations and all that kind of stuff. Are there any other questions? So again, if you know anyone needs a new roof or HVAC system, please let them know. They have to be elderly and low income. I think for one, and this is a problem I'm having, is the income level for this program. I think for one household is 16,000 and some change, and for two, I think it's maybe 27,000. So some of them are over that limit, but we're still trying.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hart. Coming back to Ms. Burke, I know you talked about social services and is that going to grow? I'm quite sure my fellow commissioners from the county, because social service falls under the county, and the fellow commissioners, at any given point, they can let you know what they have, and I'm quite sure they have a plan for that. Thank you. And we're going to brief from engineering from Mrs. Ratliff.
Evening, everyone. How are you doing? I want to kind of look back before we start looking forward. And one of the things that, when we talk about all the work that is going on in Oxford, and I know everybody just enjoys driving over the roads and all the construction that is occurring, one of the things that, might give you a little bit of an idea of what we're dealing with is this picture was taken in 1916. It's Main Street, and it was the first time that Oxford was paving Main Street. Our water and sewer utilities were installed 11 years before that picture was taken. So we were using horses and buggies as our main mode of transportation when our water and sewer lines went in much of the downtown area and the surrounding areas. So one of the things that we want to do and have been doing is replacing those water lines. If your house was a century, actually 120 years old, you'd probably think you might need a new roof on that. Our water lines, our sewer lines are the same thing. And I know that the construction does take a little while. Go ahead, Seth. But when you start looking at the problems that we're having, because the utilities are 120 years old, is that, we're getting water, groundwater, stormwater, rainwater coming into our sewer systems. Our water lines are breaking, which causes problems, especially for locations like a kidney dialysis. If they ran out of water all of a sudden, if the hospital ran out of water all of a sudden, that would be a very, very bad day. The fire chief, when we had the fire downtown, the water lines that we had down there up until recently probably would have broken just from the impact of trying to fight the fire across from the courthouse, in which case we would have had no water whatsoever to fight the fire. So, as we're going through all of the utilities that we are looking at, we've got about 90 miles of water lines and about 80 miles of sewer lines. Out of those 80 and 90 miles, we need to replace about 30 miles of water and about 50 miles of sewer. That's a lot of replacement that needs to take place. One of the things that we have done for this last several years is worked with NCDOT, because as we are doing our projects throughout town, and you may not be able to pick out the individual streets, but anything that's highlighted means that we have done either a water line or a sewer line or both on these roadways. And so that is a lot of work that's been going on in a lot of different areas of the city. It's not just been concentrated in downtown. We have worked in a lot of the neighborhoods. We've worked in cross-country lines. We're doing all of this to try to make sure that all of the residents, you can turn on the faucet, water comes out, something that you can rely on, and it's safe to drink, and you flush the toilet and it goes away, and you don't have to think about it. If I'm accomplishing that and you're not thinking about it, that means that we're doing pretty good. So, with those projects, we are also working with our partners at the city of Henderson and Warren County to expand the water treatment plant, going back to some of the ideas of what are we doing to handle the infrastructure of the incoming population that we are seeing happening in Oxford. So the Carr Lake Water Treatment Plant is going to be expanded from 10 million gallons a day to 20 million gallons a day, and that will give us additional water that we can utilize here in the city of Oxford. Our wastewater treatment plant is undergoing a rehab project right now to make sure that portions of that plant that were installed in the 70s and 80s are being updated, and they are being brought into, compliance with new regulations that are coming out. So we're working all over the city trying to make sure that we are able to provide water and wastewater services to everybody, not just the new folks coming in, but the folks that have been here for, the last 100+ years, because those are the ones that you are our current residents. We want to make sure that you have good water and sewer, not just the folks that are coming in. So, and when we are working on this, we have been working with the DOT. So you all probably saw a lot of resurfacing work going on about a year ago. We had talked to DOT and said, okay, if we're going to go out and dig up all these roads to put in the new water and sewer lines under the pavement, we want to wait until that work is done before we actually start to resurface the roads. Because DOT had planned to come in here several years ago, and while it would have given us nice roads initially, we would have come back and cut those brand new roads and then put the water and sewer utilities under them. So we have been working with DOT, and when they did come back in and do a large resurfacing job, we piggybacked their project, and it's kind of like we got the Costco or Sam's buying effect. Because DOT does much larger projects than what the city will take on, we got their, Costco buying power, and we were able to do more roads with less money by teaming up with the DOT. And so, we're trying to plan these things out, and I know we've got Hillsborough Street and College Street. Everybody's really looking forward to seeing those go back together. On Hillsborough Street, we're talking to DOT. We have a meeting, thanks to one of our commissioners, later, first of next month, to talk to DOT about possibly resurfacing Hillsborough Street and College. For those of you that don't know, College Street is actually, we're going to have a new median installed starting at McClanahan Street and going north to about the Masonic Home. So the median that you see on many of our other streets, like on Spring Street, MLK, Main Street, we're going to be putting a median down College that we will hope will add to, the aesthetics as you come into the downtown area. So once that water line is done on College, we'll be creating that median. And next slide. So one of the other projects is the roundabout at Williamsboro and New College and Gilliam Street, the area that's been milled for quite some time. I actually talked to the DOT about that this morning. They were finalizing the plans. They anticipate that the contractor will be moving in the 1st of May to start working on constructing a new roundabout there at that location. Once they get started, we would anticipate that they'll be done with that work in about 90 days. So hopefully as we get into summer, that roundabout will be up and fully functional, and that will be something that will hopefully help the traffic flow, as well as provide another location with some green space that will incorporate into that roundabout. And so, one of the things that we are doing is we're trying to leave a legacy for our children and our grandchildren that they can be proud of and that they are going to be taken care of. When I talk about these utilities and, that were installed in 1905 and roads were paved in 1916, our grandparents and our great-grandparents were the ones that gave us something that we could use. But at some point, we need to turn around and do the same thing for our children and our grandchildren. And I'll be happy to entertain any questions. Yes, ma'am. So with many of the funding agencies that we work with, they anticipate that pipe is going to have a minimum of a 40-year lifetime. What we typically see is that's probably going to be closer to 60 or 70. But a lot of that depends on how the construction occurred, what type of material it's bedded in, and you never can be 100% certain how long that product will last. But we would say that you are going to be not seeing your road torn up again for the same utility for at least 5 decades. So quite some time. Here in North Carolina, we are very lucky that we don't have the issues that you may have heard about in, Jackson, Mississippi, Flint, Michigan, even out west where they don't have any water at all, and where their lakes are drying up, their rivers are drying up. Our water source is the Carr Lake water reservoir that is bordering between North Carolina and Virginia. And so with this latest expansion that we did, that is a 10 million gallon a day expansion, we had to study what kind of an impact that would have to the lake itself. During drought conditions, we showed that it would reduce the water in that lake by 1 inch. So, there is a lot of capacity in that lake. Now, there are a lot of hoops to jump through in order to access that water. It's not something that you can just go put a straw in and start utilizing it tomorrow. The state wants to make sure if you're moving it from water from one river basin to another, we share the lake with the state of Virginia. The Corps of Engineers is involved because that lake was installed as a power source. So there's a lot of moving, pieces in order to start accessing that. But we are very lucky that here in Oxford, we have that kind of a resource that many, many locations don't have in North Carolina and throughout the U.S. Yes, sir. Oh my, yes. And you have put it very nicely. When you dig something up that has, been in the ground for over 100 years, the surprises that you can find, once you dig in, and we have to adjust on the fly and try to make sure that we avoid oil tanks that we did not know were underground, that were there from decades ago, or, old coal chutes, or, there are lines that existed that we didn't even have on maps. We are actually still trying to track down where one water line on Hillsborough Street is being fed from. We can't get the water to stop. And so when you don't have a lot of records and you're trying to do this just based on the information you can see above ground, it does, you come into, we have a piece of paper that says this is our plan of where to start. But what we do out there in the field sometimes varies completely, is very different than what the original plan was. And so it does sometimes cause things to take more time and and causes a bigger disruption to everybody that's trying to navigate through those work zones.
As a quick follow-up to that, I must say that the residents were going crazy and would have maybe fired every last one on the city commissioner. One day, one resident was so angry. I said, "Look, these are things that must be done." And I think that sometimes if we explain to the residents, they realize the good thing in terms of what is going to come after. So I remember when I talked to you that day, I was not too pleased and so on. But I must say that since then, a lot have been done, and the residents are understanding that these are things that must be done. So maybe sometime it's just how you put out the information to these residents that will make them calm down and understand that this is for development.
Thank you, sir.
I want to talk into this. I think, Mr. Carr, you have to remember we're residents as well, so we suffer the same as everybody else. So, but thank you for those remarks.
Remind me again where on the website people can go to find out when the roads are going to be closed and the direction of traffic.
So our communication specialist puts out an email to the Sunshine List, and anybody can sign up for that. That will show that information. And if I'm not mistaken, she is posting that on the homepage of the website, and she tries to keep that as up to date as possible. We ask that the contractor provide us, this week what they're going to be doing next week so that we have a look ahead. And typically, the contractor that's currently working on Hillsborough Street, their standard schedule is Monday through Thursday. They'll start about 7:30 in the morning, and they go until they wrap up, usually about 5 or 6 o'clock when they get to a good stopping point. They typically don't work on Fridays, but if it rains during the week, they may pick up Friday in order to continue getting their allotted amount of pipe that they're scheduled to get in, and not delay that project further. But you should be able to look on our homepage and see when that, what roads are affected and what times.
For,
I mentioned that.
for those who are not, who do not have computers, is there any way you could perhaps have that information in the Oxford Ledger?
I would say that that is something that we can probably do. I know we have talked with the Oxford Ledger about some of our projects, but have not necessarily given that week look ahead that, we could add to the information that's going out.
Our problem with the ledger with that is timing. By the time the contractors tell you where they will be, our weekly, once a week paper has been sent to printers. So the timeline is our problem there, and I don't think your contractors would be able to adjust. However, if you find a way, we'll do it.
And I guess, and you have you got an excellent point there, because typically the contractor is trying to see what they have done this week, and I think your latest deadline is Wednesday about noon. And so that's an excellent point. I'm glad you brought that up. Anyone else? Turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Rafflin. If you go into the engineering office, our engineer is doing wonders. She's using plans and drawings that are on paper. Some of them you have to pull them out. They're a roll-up type thing from the 1920s. So she does a good job. If you go in her office, you see the samples of the piping that was removed throughout the city. It's not easy, and everybody's want to know when the roads are going to be repaired. It's not easy. She just sent it to you. And as far as communication, where we're going to be doing this as often as possible. Like the bishop said, how do we get in the ledger? Like the ledger representative said, we got to see how we can work the system to get it on time to the ledger, and we work on that and as we move forward. I'm going to call again up Ms. Chief Ford. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight and participating in this event. We appreciate it. What I want to talk about tonight, what I think is important, is that we talk about achievements of the police department from last year. Last year, we implemented a new body-worn camera program. That was the first new program that we have had since 2005, so we were a little bit behind the curve with that. We also implemented what is called an early warning system. The early warning system falls under the Police Reform Act, so that was required by the state of North Carolina. And what that system does is it holds employees accountable for their daily activities and what they do at the police department. Education. Last year, we accumulated 3,792 total training hours that resulted in general instructors for the state of North Carolina, law enforcement management graduates, drone deployment operators, and advanced and intermediate law enforcement certifications. That's a lot of training hours. It is very important to the police department. It's very important to the officers, because those total training hours are then implemented in the community when we respond to calls. The more training we have, the better we are equipped with knowledge to assist our community with any situation that may be going on at the time. And also, I'm sure many of you are aware that 10 months ago or 11 months ago, we had a critical incident in Oxford, and one of our officers was actually shot in the line of duty. We were fortunate enough to have an organization called the North Carolina Law Enforcement Assistance Program. This crisis recovery team came to Oxford shortly after the aftermath of that incident. And not only did they provide assistance to the police department, they also provided assistance to 911 operators, firefighters, EMS, any personnel that was working the night that this incident occurred. And at the conclusion of this recovery team visiting and having these individual and group meetings with officers and everybody that was involved in emergency services, they described Oxford police officers as resilient, determined, and a well-trained organization, and we are very proud of that. And just want to move on to some of the goals. Our number one goal this year is the retention of the officers that we currently have. The police department is down several officers. We're certainly in a better position than we were last year. But the number one goal this year is to retain the officers that we have so that they may grow and continue to be invested in the community. We do not want to become a training ground where we have officers that frequently in and out. When that happens, you have no investment. Second, of course, is recruitment of new officers. My officers have actually asked for force field training, which provides law enforcement with instruction to handle incidents such as protests. It also provides legal considerations and responsibility of a mobile field force team for the police department. We also are going to be retiring our firearms instructor, and it's important that we retrain at least 2 additional officers. And the Captain Curl and I are here, and I'm sure many of you in this room know Captain Curl. She's been around for a long time. She and I are working diligently every day for a succession plan because she and I and several others will be retiring from the police department within, I don't know, next 2 years, I'm just going to say. So if anybody has any questions, I'll take any operational questions. I'm going to defer day-to-day patrol and CID questions. I will defer those to Captain Curl because that is in her wheelhouse. So if anyone has any questions. Yes, sir. Had to be you, right? Had to be you. Yes,
The
sir.
reason you're having problems with retention,
Mhm.
is it one or two things? Is money one thing?
Oh, of course, money's always high on the list.
So people are poaching our police officers.
Oh, absolutely. We're poaching. I mean,
Right.
and Oxford poaches too. I mean, we need officers. We have to have officers that serve our community. But this is the new era of law enforcement. I'm sure Commissioner McCray can certainly understand, being that he works in the justice system also. It's not going to stop. The young officers now, I think Commissioner McCray and I have had this conversation. When he and I went to work in our profession, we were looking for retirement. We were looking for a way to raise our children and have that steady income. We were looking for longevity and somewhere just to land and build that around that community. That's not one of the top issues now with young folks. They're good. We appreciate our young folks. I appreciate it because they have different ideas that they bring to us that some of us old school may not necessarily think of, but so, yeah.
Chief Ford, do you mind sharing with the public one of the strategies that we going about as far as recruitment, like the part-time strategy and stuff like that we are approaching?
Yes, sir. Recently, our Board of Commissioners and City Manager have agreed for the police department to hire at least 10 part-time officers. These officers will come to us hopefully from local agencies. They're already be familiar with Oxford, certainly familiar with law enforcement, and they will supplement any areas that we may be short and we feel like we need that extra assistance. So the commissioners were, like I say, they blessed us with 10 positions. So hopefully we'll be able to fill those soon. 25, 25, including myself. We're staffed. We were staffed prior to at 31 officers. We lost 2 positions in last year's budget. We're staffed, yes, ma'am. About 29, but we are 5 positions down at this time.
And the part-time 10, so
10, yes, ma'am. We've been given the opportunity to hire 10. Now we've got to get out there and find 10.
that is effective as of now.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's
Thank you.
effective as of now. And we've had some interest. We just hadn't actually garnered those applications yet, but we definitely have interest.
Is that something that will be advertised or maybe?
Yes, ma'am. We will advertise it. Hopefully, our human resource director will assist with the advertisement of that. We'll turn to whatever means that she has. I know hers is different from mine, but our best recruiters are our own officers and city employees. So if you know a few good young men and women, send them our way.
Okay.
We'll be glad
Thank
to
you.
talk to them. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, I couldn't let you go without asking this question. One of the things with the police and the community is the community, the residents. And is there any plan to sort of speak to the residents, let them know how things are going? Because the residents sometimes feel left out. So, is there any plans in that area?
Well, I think the mayor has started a good program now. I think this is a start. Of course, we are always out in the community every quarter. We have Coffee with a Cop where everyone is invited to come and sit down and have a conversation. We move that all over the city. It could be, 2 weeks ago, we met at McDonald's for about 2 hours. Sometimes we'll be at Hardee's, Bojangles. We try and move it and make it convenient all over the city. Mhm. And we're we've been talking for a couple of weeks about attempting to implement another program. We don't want to talk too much about that, but we're going to be turning to some of our local ministers and pastors to aid and assist us with that. I'm sorry, Captain Curls, stand up. There you go.
Yeah, I was gonna say another place that we've been doing food giveaways every first Friday at the Solid Rock Church, and we're down there talking to citizens all the time. Upon this rock, I'm sorry, on College Street, and we do that every first Friday, and citizens are down there, and we're talking to them and working with that church organization, Mr. Morton's Church, the Hope House. We've been down and talked. So anytime, if y'all have something that y'all would like us to talk, we're more than happy if you just reach out to us. Yes, ma'am.
Mike, I was at the commissioners meeting the other night, and the discussion about the budget, and there was an increase in the budget, and there was a particular expenditure that I thought was a little curious, and it was funding for riot gear for you guys. So I'm wondering, is that a replenishment, or you didn't have it and now you need it, or why riot gear?
Well, it's kind of a replenishment because we did have it, but our equipment is probably 25+ years old. What we have left.
It's way old, and we don't have enough for the officers. Some of it's broke.
But we have to think ahead. We have to be prepared for any type of incident, and that riot gear could be used in a school for any type of school situation. It could be used in Walmart. It could be used in one of our factories. But it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Because if we don't have this here and we have critical incident in your city, then law enforcement, I'm sorry, law enforcement, law enforcement's not going to be of much assistance and our community would suffer at that point, and I don't think anyone wants that.
We have like gas that we can shoot out if there was, say there was a ride or something, but we have no gas masks. So it wouldn't be any good, even if we had to use it, if something, and that's the worst scenario, we never want to have to use it. But what if something that you see happen on TV was that we're one incident away, that something may happen, and we don't have the gear to protect the citizens? And that's mainly what it is for. And if another citizen like Henderson or Granville County or Butner, another agency in this area calls and asks us to help because they don't have enough officers, we don't even have the equipment to go help them. We'd have to stand down. And that's just, we have got to get to that point where we can respond. I mean, the fire department, they have their gas masks, but we don't have any.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Keith Louder, and I work at the Granville County Jail. And some of the things I see, well, my question is, do OPD have any kind of training or anyone to help with mental health? A lot of times down at the jail, you see the same ones in and out, in and out. And I have experience with working with mental health, and a lot of times I have to speak with them and use my training, help calm them down and whatnot. But I have seen some things that I don't like working with mental health. I was just wondering, how's the training with OPD with mental health?
Do you want to talk about?
Yeah, we send our officers to the crisis intervention training, which is a 40-hour training, and we try to get every officer through that. We're also working with the Stepping Up program, and we've been working with them for several years now. And we actually look for people, and some of the ones, I'm sure, without calling names, that you're seeing, we have tried to work with them through the Stepping Up stories where people were actually helped by this program, and they're thriving now because they help them with their finances, they help them with their medication, they check in on them, and if we can keep them out of jail and out of our sites and doing well, that's what we want to do. And we're also, recently, we have been discussing some extra training with veterans. We're looking into getting some extra training with veterans and how to deal with somebody that may have post-traumatic stress. And that's really, if you're looking into law enforcement, and some of the training is wellness and resilient training for not only law enforcement, but with how we deal with these people. So yes, sir, we are, and we're open to any other suggestions because, I mean, we have to do it as a community. We can't do it alone. We can't do anything without y'all. So if you have any resources or suggestions, please come by and let us have a conversation.
I recently experienced some Oxford gun violence firsthand. The shooting over behind Little Caesars, I was actually getting gas when I heard the gunshots. And there were two officers there at the time. I heard the call come in. But my question is, how connected is OPD and the sheriff's office when it comes down to a shooting like that? If a shooting occurs in the county, because recently, at least with some of these murders, we've seen a connectedness with it may happen in the county and then come to the city, or it may happen in the city and then go to the county. So my concern is, I need, me personally as a citizen, I need you all to be pretty much locked together, your horns locked together when it comes to incidents like that. So what, if a shooting occurs, like when that shooting occurred, how does the sheriff's office get that information? And if something happens in the county, how do you get the information from the sheriff's office?
CID.
Well, one thing is we all scan on radio. So if you're working, everybody should hear it. Whether it's sheriff's department or police department, we hear their calls, they hear our calls. They drop tones on major shootings for us. Also, with the some of the shootings and the gunplay that's been going on, we have looked at video. We've identified things for the sheriff's department. Anything we get involving their case, we pass it to one of their detectives. And I know on the State Bureau investigation was helping them out on some of their cases, just like they help us out, because we need all that state stuff, materials and training and equipment they have sometimes. So we have been funneling information through them on some of their homicides and shooting cases. And I think that their detectives share information with us also.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Back when I was in school, I remember that there was a program by the name of, I want to say it was called the Explorer program. That it was a program that if high schoolers who was close to graduating was interested in law enforcement, they would go to the school resource officer and ask about the program and sign up for the program. And it was just like I guess you can consider it like an ROTC for the law enforcement. Um, is that program still around? And if so, is OPD signed on to that program?
We did Explorers, and we had done it for several years, and then the sheriff's department took over and they start doing Explorers. They did it over there. They had a camp at the sheriff's department. They actually recruited our guy that was running it, and it was no need to run two at the same time because it wasn't that much of an interest. So they all went to the sheriff's department. Now, whether they're doing one now or not, I'm not sure, but right now we are not doing one. But we do have internship. We do interns. A lot of times we have an intern come and they'll work in CID with us to get their credits in. Anytime a student wants to come by, ask questions, any kind of interest, we do career days. We do talks with the kids. So we're open to all that, but right now we're not running Explorers program. Yes, sir.
I'm at the library, and there are quite a few teachers at the library, and the county government. I'd love to say the city government too, but I'm sure you would endorse it. The county government has given us permission to use all those tables and chairs to tutor students. They have given us permission. And one of the things is the Explorer person came there one day and she shared everything with us. The person in charge was our executive director. She came. However, one of the things that caught my attention was that in certain areas of these where young people are involved, like with the police, one has got to be careful in terms of that explorer person because there are some hands-on in other areas, other fields, but with the police and with the fire brigade, the fires, they have to be very careful. So I think I think they did some too, but she just shared that with us that they always got to be careful in that area.
Yeah, and we also, just like the rec department, they just came up today and were talking to us about speaking to children during the day camps this summer and talking to them about what we do and just in general, any questions that they have. So we're always about going to the Boys and Girls Club, going to Cradle, so reading buddies. I mean, we did Kool-Aid with the anything we can involve children. We bought footballs for Cradle. So anything, we went up there and talked to the kids. So anything like that, we're all for it.
And everyone is always welcome. We do have a ride-along program at the police department.
All
If
right.
you come, sign the waiver, jump in the car and ride around with the patrol officer and get that firsthand sight of what we actually do.
Yeah,
on a
we've
daily
had
basis.
Leadership Gramble has been riding with us recently.
Yes, ma'am.
As long as you're over 18.
Yeah, as long as you're over, are you over 18?
Nah.
Like I say, 18 with a few years' experience added on top of that, right? Yes, but yes, ma'am, anyone can participate in that.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Chief Ford and Captain Kerr. One thing they forgot to mention, and they're very professional, and you see a lot of law enforcement. Everything they do is on social media. The police department here in Oxford, they actually work with the youth. I found out that if they go down the streets and the guys have basketball, the basketball knows go. The police department, the officers go purchase basketball, and they're trying to mix with the community, and they just don't like to promote themselves. But keep telling them we got to be salesperson, same as you see in the street department. You had live photos of the work that's being done. So I keep telling the chief and the captain we got to get it out. But thank you very much for what you do.
In the smallest of way, then we're here to help. And we don't brag about it, and we don't post it on Facebook because we are very humble people. We are humble, but we are here. I had a man call me the other day in tears. He lost his dog. He lost his dog. I got up from my desk and I went to help him find his dog. He put that on Facebook, not me.
As you see, Trey's, we're live streaming right now. So that's why we have the mic, because everyone that's watching on the computer, they cannot hear you. So we ask that you use this mic. I'm going to welcome one of the person that's good leader of this community. He's been in just about every position. I'm not sure which one to call, if it's dad or him, but I'm going to call Chief Cottrell. And this gentleman, his dad, is, he probably can tell you every water line in the city or what everything that's in the city. But Chief, how about coming up here and give us a little words on the fire department?
So as the mayor stated, my name is David Cottrell, and I am with the Oxford Fire Department, serving as chief. Been so since 2013. Been with the city a little over 29 years. A little bit about the organization. We were first adopted by the city in 1905 as a volunteer agency. Transitioned to a combination agency with a paid chief and then paid firefighters. And now we're still a combination agency, which means that we have 14 full-time, 8 part-time, and right at 21 volunteers. So the people in the community, the members of the community, are the ones that are serving the community. If we get a call today and we roll out the station with the fire truck is manned by paid staff, and the firefighters are either callback members of the paid staff or they are volunteers that are coming from their home or their job. So we definitely put back in the community. Part of what we do, and let's transition. We offer a lot of services. We offer the identical services to what you find in, say, Raleigh, Chapel Hill, Cary, wherever, just in a smaller statue. So we are firefighters, we do extrication technicians, we do plan reviews, we do inspections, we are confined space certified for below grade and underground. We are high angle. You can see us hanging from a water tower if necessary. We hope that doesn't happen. But all these are useful skills and accreditations to have with all the work that's going on, because there are a lot of holes, ditches around town, which y'all have already heard from Amy, our engineer, about. We also back up industry for the same reason. Industry puts us on standby pretty much every day. We get a phone call from the industry that says they're entering a confined space environment, which is immediately dangerous to life and health. You know, it could be an encapsulation hazard, it could be a low oxygen atmosphere, something like that. And we're on standby for that, and we respond to it. Most of the stuff that we've done in our budget over the last 8 to 9 years has been to enforce and reinforce those activities. Plan reviews. We have tried to transition from paper to electronic to make it an easier process dealing with contractors and our partners at the inspections. So if somebody sends us an email with the plan on the PDF, we can get turned around and sent back to them. We have a car seat checkpoint station at the building, where if you have a newborn or even an existing child, you come by with your car seat, we'll install it. The members are trained to install it and install it properly. If you have a newborn, you cannot leave the hospital without having a car seat in your car. If you don't have one, you can't afford one, come by and see us. We'll find a program or a donation or something somewhere to get you a car seat and put in that car for that child's safety. You're not going to leave there without having that benefit from my agency. As you can see, we also do public education. That's a big thing that we do. We're in the schools, we're in the hospitals, we're in the industry doing fire brigade training. We do fire extinguisher training for like shelters or adult care facilities. We go into the businesses, do it when it's offered. We go into our own houses and do it. And by that, I mean, we offer them at the city level. So even the city staff has to have certain training, first aid training and whatnot, and we do it in-house for that. So our services are wide and broad. Just this is some of the pictures that I put up here just to kind of give you a demonstration. Hazmat, we operate the hazmat operations plus level, which means if there's a leak, then we approach it and we address it and we can contain it or stop it until someone can come and mitigate it and clean it up. We don't clean it up. We just get it and mitigate it to a point that it's not going to be worse than we found it. That is our rule. Whether it's a structure fire or an incident with a car wreck or accident or whether it's a hazmat spill, we didn't cause it. We responded to it. We tried to stop it and we tried to make it better for whoever was involved. It's about the person. It's about the property with us. But safety is number one across the board. Move on. To kind of give you an idea what it takes to do that, this is a snapshot of those firefighters I was telling you about. So we have a small complement. You know, we have 5 that work from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. After 5 o'clock, it's full shift and on the weekends. So we just expanded. The city was kind enough to give us 3 additional full-timers this past year that we were hired and trained because we are dealing with volunteers, and everybody knows how volunteerism is these days. It's going down. You know, people don't have time to be a volunteer like they used to, whether it's at the church or a baseball coach or whatever else. So when that happens, a question was asked, you know, are we looking forward? We've been looking forward for years. We've been preparing by trying to hire people, by trying to train people. Our purchases are based on the future. We knew the growth was coming. Oxford has always been poised for growth. You know, we have the water system that's been in place with Carr Lake. We had the infrastructure as far as our upgrade to our wastewater treatment plant that we did years ago. So we're sitting here waiting for the growth to come to us, and now it's on our backs. But when that happens, you know, we were looking for it and waiting for it to come, but it's kind of a catch-22. You can't put a ton of money into something that doesn't happen and then waste the taxpayers' money. So you got to kind of stage it and see it and try to time it the best that you can. But you have to be prepared for it. It's kind of like having a turnkey process on your desk ready to pick up, break the label on, and start reading and start using. And that's what we've done. We did a truck purchase in 2018. It was a aerial truck, a 75-foot aerial truck. It cost a little more than a pumper the year that we bought it. But the reason we did that was we knew that we were going to have a second station in the future. Our trucks are lasting us 20, 25 years. So we knew that truck was going to be here when we built our second station. So now instead of having to buy a new fire truck at $1 million+ is what it's going to cost these days to put that second station, we're able to take the existing truck that we bought back in when it was cheaper, which in 2018, and move that truck from the station that we're in now to the new station. So it's all about using your money wisely and try to get the most out of it. That's one of the things that we look at the future with. The other thing is we go by standards. So one of the standards is ISO, and then you have NFPA 1710 and 1720. They look at combination and volunteer fire departments. And they say that you need this number of people to perform a job or a service. So a structure fire requires about 29 people on scene to be safe. We don't put 29 people on scene. We put 15 to 18 people on scene. So people are doing multiple jobs or they're doing congruent jobs. Do a job here, do a job there, they do them at the same time. Switch to safety officers, incident command, things like that. So we have to be well trained to make sure that it happens. So when you look here, we got leadership classes, we have instructor classes, we have incident command classes, we have driver operator classes to make sure that the person that's driving that vehicle down the street, that vehicle weighs 60,000 pounds. You do not want a novice that's inexperienced that's driving, you know, recklessly going down through the middle of town with that truck. So we send them through driver training, and we do it annually, and we keep it going. Emergency vehicle driver training, hazmat, fire and life safety educator, like I said, getting that to the schools. We've had a program in place for 38 years now. This is the 38th year where we have purchased and distributed public education materials to every elementary kid in Granville County, not just the city of Oxford, but Granville County. We solicit donations. It doesn't come out of our city coffers. Money's donated by industries or individuals or the insurance company that we use. We buy those materials, and then every October, We distribute them to the schools around Graham County, and then they're passed out to the teachers, and a program is delivered for fire safety. You know, the stop, drop, and roll that you remember and things like that. That's where that comes from. And I was happy to say that program has been 38 years old this year. So EMT, we run a lot of medical calls these days, even though we're not considered a transport agency or first responder. We run 650 calls last year, and even though we didn't respond every time with the EMS, we were there for the gunshots and the stabbings and the car wrecks and the overdoses and the times that the EMS unit was out of service or out of town or on another call that we were paged out to. So it's just not fire. We are labeled a fire department, but we're a little bit of everything. When all this fails, call the fire department. Sorry, police. That's who the police calls, the fire department, just in case y'all know. But like I said, we like to think that we offer a good service and it's a full service. It's just smaller than you see in a bigger department. But like I said, we've been trusted by the community. We go out in the community. We have a smoke detector program where we do either door to door, and we knock on your door and we offer to come in and install smoke detectors, or you visit our station and you tell us that you need a smoke detector, you give us an address and we map it. That way we kind of keep up with neighborhoods we're in, and we give you smoke detectors. If you have a deaf child or senior citizen, they need what they call a shake-awake smoke detector. It's a little vibratory device that goes up under their pillow. And that way, if the smoke detector goes off, it vibrates their pillow and wakes them up in the middle of the night. So we can get those devices for you. They're hard to get. They're very expensive. But you come to us, we'll put the application in, and we'll make a way down, make sure we don't want anybody to be the casualty of a house fire. So we'll make a way. Just let us know if you have that need. I could go on forever, but pretty much that's us in a nutshell. Anybody have any questions?
How you doing, Chief?
Hey,
Staffing.
Staffing.
Currently, are you adequately staffed? And what staffing needs do you foresee in the future after you saw the presentation with all the growth? I'm sure you're getting the reports too.
Yeah.
And lastly, where are you thinking about putting another location, another firehouse?
Okay. So looking at the NFPA 1710 and 1720 documents, and also looking at ISO, they have recommendations or standards. And it talks about houses or driveways being 1.5 miles and 2.5 miles from a fire station. Those are ideal. It takes a lot of money to make that happen. You know, if we did that in Oxford, you know, we'd have 5 fire stations right now. But we also look at response times. So the average response time in Oxford today is 4 minutes, 23 seconds. So you make the phone call, 4 minutes, 23 seconds. We go through a maximum of 5 stoplights. In Oxford, unless it's Friday afternoon during the summer and everybody's trying to get a check cashed, it's not that bad driving through the middle of town. So 5 stoplights, 4 minutes, 23 seconds is the average response time. So we got that part covered. The station that comes into play when you start dealing with the outliers and also with the growth. They look at density, population density. So those 14 to 16 subdivisions that Ms. Hart was talking about, we have those same maps. And we're part of that same plan review and in those same conversations. And we look at the timing. I think the question was asked Ms. Hart about the timing. Timing changes. You know, they're not going to build 4,000 homes on a couple of thousand acres in 5 years. Things are going to happen. There's going to be delays. There's going to be money shortages because somebody who gets their loans not going to come through on time. The rates are going to change for their interest. Interest rates are going to change, and they're going to back off. That's why you see it's pot building. They'll start over here and they'll build. They want to build 300, but now they're only going to build 50. They start over here and they want to build that, and they kind of slow it down. So we look at where that density is, and then we go by that. Right now, the density on the McDonald's side of town is greater than the density on the opposite side of town. The south is kind of beating the north right now. So when we look at it, you know, we're not going to build 2 fire stations on the same day. So we're going to look and see, you know, where the density is coming, where the need is, what the distance is between the main fire station and the second fire station, because you don't want to build them on top of each other because it doesn't work. They've got to be spread out apart. and then look at those driving times and then those obstacles like the stoplights and heavy losses, like the industry heavy loss and the density of the apartments, the buildings that have like townhouse homes, that you got more people in those than you would say the single family located on an acre of land across town. So we look at that, and then I actually contacted the state, who's actually the one that looks over us and surveys us and gives us our rating schedule, and talk to them about the same thing and send them the same maps, and then they agree with what we do. The other option to that is we spend $30,000 or $40,000 and bring an individual firm in from out of town to tell you the same thing that I just told you. So it's kind of one versus the other. We're here, we see it every day. We see where the growth is coming, and we know what the rules are. So we save that $30,000 or $40,000 and apply it to something else. So that's just one way we look at it.
Well, this is not so much a question as it is. Everybody knows that Babacar loves to eat. And I must say that those things that you put on for the children and you invite the community, I must say I've been to quite a few of them. And I see you reaching a lot of the community, a lot of the children. The children always say, man, this food is good. And not only that, you give them information on what you do, etc. So I want to commend you on that and continue.
Thank you. We do a lot of station visits. People come to the station. Like I said, we are an open building, so come see us. We go to schools. We're going to be in the schools next week. We come in and do an inspection. We don't just do an inspection of business. We interact with the citizens that are in the building. We stop on the sidewalks. If there's a program that's going on, like for recreation, for Tina or hot sauce, we're right in the middle of it. We're making sure that we're seen and we're proactive. We have our open house, our annual open house you're talking about. So the ones that we can't reach during our visits to the school, or the people who work during the day, they have an opportunity to come in the afternoon and come see us, and we do a demonstration of some of our abilities, whether it's cutting up a car or whatnot. And then we let them see a lot of our gear, our trucks, and then we have our bouncy houses for the kids. And then, like you said, we serve some food, and everybody comes for food. So.
Just to comment on what you said earlier, the growth chart at which softens Ms. Hart going up to the 2,200 additional homes and everything, you're thinking that maybe your growth, the fire department will double in size, I think you're saying, and probably set up a second station someplace else in Oxford.
So a second station is going to be needed in the very near future. That's going to have to happen.
Okay, that happens.
That's going to
sooner
have to
than
happen.
later. Okay.
So the manpower we're addressing two ways. One way is we're constantly looking for volunteers. So, but like I said, there's a lot of training that goes along with it, as you can see, and there's a lot of time commitment, because we're getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, you're trying to get ready to go to work, but you're taking a shower, but we have a call that we go out on. So the volunteers, like you said, we have to work with that. We were able to get 3 additional full-time staff. This year, we put in a federal grant, to try to get 3 additional full-time staff. So we're trying to do it the free way first, and then transition into the paid side. And if we don't do that, then a year or so down the road, we'll look at it and say, look, Mr. Manager, Board of Commissioners, we have a lot of call volume, it's increasing. We need additional staff. So. I did. Yes, sir.
With regards to the volunteers, are they covered by any type of insurance?
Always.
From the city of Oxford?
Always. So we have 2 policies. We have a workman's comp policy, and then we have a volunteer insurance policy. And our volunteer policy covers talking about, but it also covers their equipment. So it costs me right around $5,000 to outfit a volunteer firefighter. So if you come in as a volunteer firefighter and then you decide 2 months later, and after I purchased this gear that fits just you, that you're no longer going to be a volunteer, then I have a set of gear that may fit the next guy or it may not. Or you leave it in the back of your car and somebody steals it, or the sun bakes it, because it is susceptible to the UV light, or the sun bakes it where it's no longer can be used, has to be replaced every 10 years. The pager I give you that activates to tell you that we have a call is $600. The radio you carry is about $4,000. So if any of that stuff gets lost, broken, stolen, we have insurance policy on that volunteer for $100 deductible, we get it replaced. that same vendor that offers that insurance for us also covers what you're talking about, which is liabilities of if they get hurt or if they have a wreck on the way to a call or whatever else happens. Because like I said, we can't just throw everybody on the street. And there's a vetting process with a volunteer. So the state introduced this past year that if you want to be a volunteer, you have to go to the sheriff's department, get fingerprinted, and then get sent through to be vetted. That's not a bad thing because we're a trusted agency. And when you have a call, we come in your house, we take it over through exigent circumstances. It belongs to us until we give it back to you. So we'll be in there free floating, checking for extension of fire or checking for smoke or whatnot. And we don't want just anybody in your house with your belongings and your personal items. So having people vetted as their volunteers is not the worst thing that ever happened to the fire service. So I do agree with that part of it. But we are covered by insurance and multiple layers of insurance. So. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Chief Cottrell. Recently, last month, we approved and gave authorization to the city manager to seek the property for new public safety. It's going to be joint public safety for police and fire. So we're planning and we're looking ahead at growth. Police is growing, they're going to grow, fire is going to grow. So we're ready in our planning stage looking to see what's going to happen 5-10 years down the road. And Chief Cottrell and Chief Ford has been really taking the lead and get this work for us. So you may see us going into design. Once we got to acquire the property, we going into design to build this facility for the fire and chief department. I think we had all the presentation by the staff so far. There should be one more presentation that I think was on there, and a couple items. As you notice, we have cemeteries in the city, and they're really bad state. We are in the process of putting a program together to restore these cemeteries. They've been denied for a long time. We are fortunate to have in our community two people, Mike and Hillary. They're right here tonight. If you can, that's their business. They restore cemeteries. They go in and restore stuff like that. Would you like to come up, Mike or Hillary, or please, and go to the presentation? Thank you.
So as you can see here, we've been in business since 2018. I have a degree in historic preservation from UNC Greensboro. I've been working in this field for about a dozen years. UNC Greensboro, yeah. I worked as an apprentice under a man who had worked all over North Carolina restoring headstones for about 30 years. He passed away sadly just a couple of years ago. So my wife Hillary and I, we moved here at the end of 2019. So we live right here downtown, and be happy to help with restoration process as best we can. Next slide. So you can see here a little bit about who we are. So as I said, we live here downtown Oxford. A lot of our work is on 19th century monuments, but we can work on really anything, any sort of stone based headstones. So we've been talking to the mayor and others about working on the several city-owned and managed cemeteries here in town. So you can see here a list of some of the clients that we've worked for. So we work for cities all across North Carolina, cities, small towns, from Raleigh to New Bern, out to Winston-Salem, churches, community groups, sort of, again, all over the state. We do a program that where we go out and teach community members how to properly maintain and do simple repairs to headstones. So a lot of what we do is very intense. I don't think you would want individuals without a lot of experience working on them. We know sort of the right materials to put things back together when they're broken. But we do a lot of work with community members on some of the smaller repairs and sort of the basic maintenance of cleaning and straightening things. Over the 7 years, I suppose, that I've been doing this sort of work, that we've been doing this sort of work, we've repaired around 500 plus headstones all across central and eastern North Carolina primarily. Do you want to talk about safety?
Sure. So, of course, the first thing we want to do is keep living people safe. And then the next thing, we want to keep the stones and monuments safe. So safety is our top priority at all times. We are insured, so just to allay any fears. I am reminded of what our city engineer was saying. If you put something in the ground and you leave it there for 100 years, you don't really know what you're looking at once you open it up. 100 years is kind of on the young side for our work. We do, like Michael said, we specialize in 18th and 19th century headstones. We like to repair in kind. That means we're going to try to replace with similar materials, limestones, mortars, marble, if we can. We want to keep it as the people originally intended it to be. We want it to look exactly like it was when it first went up. We do think about long-term planning. So the idea is these monuments have been here for 100 plus years. We want them to be here for 100 plus more, so that we can continue to memorialize the people that came before us, and those who come after us will maybe remember us too. We do use historical records. So we're not just going in, that looks like a good spot, let's put it there. No, we want to make sure we are looking at historical records. That includes photographs, newspapers, family documentation. We are taking a very scholarly approach. We're both trained to do real research to make sure we're putting it back the way it should go. We can spend a long time talking about how cemeteries are laid out and the practice that you use to put things back. Save that for another time. And then we do, like Michael said, we want to teach communities basic repair methods. We'll come in and take care of the broken and damaged and dangerous things. Cemeteries are just like your house. They require regular maintenance. These are things that people need to learn how to do so that they can do it on their own. Take care of your own family's stones. Once it becomes damaged, it's too late to do any preventative maintenance. We want to teach you to do the preventative maintenance before it gets damaged. If it does get damaged, we'll come in and help repair it. Next slide, please. So these are just a few little before and after shots. These are ones that we have repaired. So you can see we are looking at number one there, that is hurricane damage at Oakwood Cemetery in Raleigh, the historic cemetery there. A hurricane came in and blew this double arched monument apart. So we put it back together just like Humpty Dumpty. And we had to use historical records to see which way do each of these stones face. We used the symbols that are on the monuments. We used photographs and, like I said, family records to do that. Number two is a dual marker that we repaired in Cary. It was illegible, broken, leaning up against its base. We put it back together, cleaned it up. Now it's nice and neat, and it continues to look really, really good today.
One thing I'll add to that is it's also an example of where often repairs happen, folks who don't quite understand the materials that we're working with, and so we'll make repairs with inappropriate materials, and that's often what we see with a lot of 19th century monuments, is that folks use materials that are incompatible largely with marble and limestone and really soft stones.
Number three is a cross that fell over. We put it back together. Number four, you might look at that before photo and say, forget it, it's impossible, it's a lost cause. No, in the over 5 years that we've been doing this, we've only come across one monument that we could not put back together. So this is as Oxford citizens, we want to see the cemeteries here look inviting and continue to encourage people to come and visit and use them as they were meant to be, a place to gather and remember friends and family gone past. So we would really like to offer our services to citizens of Oxford. And I think that's it for us. Any questions? Yes. Everyone. So we have worked with individual families, we have worked with cities, we have worked with friends groups, we have worked with a lot of churches around the area. So if you have one headstone you want fixed or a whole cemetery's worth that you want fixed, we're your people.
One, since COVID, sorry to bring it up, but since COVID, a lot of folks have been is being cremated. I mean, even myself is thinking of that. I told my daughter that wasn't too nice, but basically, what's the difference? How would you go about all that? Or you know?
How, say that again, please.
No, I mean, I'm looking at this, and this is one way, right? But most people now are being cremated, right?
That is one method that people are using to, you know, for their families to do with their remains. You can cremate, you can do green burials, you can do turn my husband into a diamond or something later on. Yeah, by the way. So yes, you can use that as an option, but these are people that have passed on before us. So these are the headstones that are currently remaining. We're looking at, you know, from the 17, 18, and early 1900s. So these are ones that have already been done. As far as what's happening today with folks today, that's between you and your funeral home and your family. And, you know, there are a lot of different options that you can take. Any other questions? All right. Thank you for your time.
We've been to all the presentations so far. First of all, I want to recognize our fellow county commissioner, Religious Jay, is here with us. And we have our Tim Curry. I'm sorry. He left. They left. Yeah. They left. So what I want to do, open up with the little remaining time we have. If you have any questions for any one of the board members, please feel free to do so, and we'll do our best to respond. Will any of the board members like to address the community?
I just want to thank all the presenters tonight for giving you all an insight into what is going on, what's gone on in the past and what is going on. I just want to thank everybody for coming out. It's a nasty night, but thank you very much on behalf, I think, of the whole board and the mayor. We want to thank you very much. So thank you.
Thank you to everyone who gave presentation. I have a question for the police group I forgot to ask, and that was, how do you see are they still here? Yeah. Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Similar question I had for the other people is, how do you see the police department growing as we add these additional 2,000 units of housing?
How do we see it growing?
Do you need twice as many officers, you believe, or I don't know?
You know, there's a couple of formulas that are used to gauge your officer ratio to citizen. None of them are proven. They're just not recommended. At one time, it was 1.5 officers for every 1,000, and I don't know how you get 1.5 police officers. So these are not recommended ways. There's a lot of things that factor, of course, the population, the crime. Your crime data is going to play a part in how many officers that you actually need. But I'm going to say that within the next, whenever all of this comes to fruition, within all the new growth and just the residents coming in. Um, we're working hard daily to keep Oxford as safe as we possibly can and tamper. There's always going to be crime. But hopefully we'll be able to keep it abated as much as we possibly can, but we will grow. But as I say, I really can't give a definite number.
Okay. Assess it as you move along.
Ma'am? Yes, ma'am. Assess as we move along. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'm the head chaplain at the Granville Hospital.
Yes, sir.
And I was just wondering whether or not if one of our meetings, we could have someone from the police department to come and share with us, the chaplains at the hospital, if they're invited.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
We wish we could stay here a long time and just keep talking and going, but the weather's coming and the wind is picking up. And unless we have any other question, I'm gonna have to close. Again, we'll be looking forward to doing this again. We're looking forward to be transparent and communicate to the city. The staff is here. We have a wonderful staff in the city. Took me a while to accept that, but when I got in the office as a mayor, I see what they do, and they're very good at what they're doing. Next meeting is the 18th. You'll have a presentation from Parks and Recs and a couple other departments, and we have a couple other spot presentation by services we think we need in this community. Unless one of my board members would like to address the public real shortly, I'm gonna put this to him and thank you very much for coming out. We look forward to see you on the 18th. Thank you very much.